One disturbing fact of all of this is like many people, especially Americans, are going to completely forget most of what happened in the Gaza war in a very short amount of time. And that's the really crazy thing about the ceasefire, is that people will forget. People will forget. And if, people are going to forget, people are going to forget kids being shot in the head in Gaza. People are going to forget the bombing of refugee camps. People are going to forget the Palestinians being told to evacuate to Rafah, only for Rafah to be attacked by the IDF. People are going to forget that 90% of the infrastructure in Gaza was destroyed. People are going to forget that over 70,000 people at a minimum, we know that the number is higher than that, over 70,000 people at a minimum were killed, most of which were women and children, let alone non-combatants. People are going to forget the murder of journalists, which happened repeatedly and in enormous numbers in this conflict, all carried out by the Israelis, by the way. People are going to forget the flour massacre, where flour was dropped off to give aid to the Gazans to help them prepare food with, and they were shot attempting to get the flour. People are going to forget the scandal with the aid distribution in Gaza, where many Gazans were shot trying to get food aid just a few months ago by an American food aid distribution company. People are going to forget any number of atrocities. People are going to forget the bombing of civilians in Syria, in Yemen, in Iran, in Lebanon, and of course in Gaza in just a couple months. All of this will be memory hold, unfortunately. And from there, well, what happens? I mean, I had a viewer telling me, I think the genocide will continue. By the way, people will forget that individuals like Ben-Gvir in the Israeli government talked openly about basically kicking all of the Arabs out of Gaza and literally ethnically cleansing it. People are going to forget all of that stuff in a short amount of time. And what will happen from there? I mean, will the genocide continue? Well, Israel had a policy prior to October 7th of repeatedly going into Gaza to quote-unquote mow the lawn or mow the grass. In other words, taking out a number of Palestinians. Namely, in their view, what they would argue is, well, we're going in to kill Hamas and this and that, and always a few civilians are killed in the process. People are going to forget this whole saga. And then in 1 year, maybe 2 years, maybe 3 years, maybe 5 years, when there's another October 7th, there's going to be a lot of people scratching their heads who say, wait, why did this happen? And what you have to do is you have to put yourself into the shoes, do your best to put yourself into the shoes of a Palestinian kid. Okay, if you're a 10-year-old Palestinian boy, and in the last 2 years, your father has died, your mother has died, your uncles have died, your aunts have died, your grandparents have died, your brothers have died, your sisters have died, your friends have died, your school has been destroyed, your home has been destroyed, the local hospital has been destroyed, the local playground has been destroyed, the local mosque has been destroyed, the local city has been destroyed, and you've basically spent the last year and change on various cots in refugee camps throughout Gaza. And in your own efforts to try to keep yourself alive, you went to go and receive food aid, and you were shot at and possibly injured. If you put yourself in the perspective of that human being, can you then understand why there is a massive, tremendous temptation to go and take up arms in defense of your homeland, in defense of your people, in defense of your culture, in defense of your civilization. But more than all of that, take up arms to avenge the atrocities that have been carried out on your people. That's where Hamas, that's where the movement of Hamas, that's where its energy derives from. That's what its energy derives from. It derives from the atrocities carried out by the Israeli government. That doesn't mean, and the Israeli Defense Forces, that doesn't mean that what Hamas does is good. That doesn't mean that October 7th is good. Almost nobody argues that October 7th was a good thing, even in the Arab world. But what most people understand, who are not brainwashed and who are not so jam full of propaganda they can't think straight, what most people acknowledge about October 7th is that it was, in a way, an inevitability based on the circumstances in Gaza prior to October 7th. You cannot wall off this section of the country and essentially operate it as an open-air concentration camp and expect the people there, who are routinely attacked, by the way, not just by Israel, by also other armed groups within Gaza, you can't expect them not to want to take up arms at some point.